Spider-Man 3 is a flawed game, but there's a level of elegance of us finding it that makes us return to it, makes us enjoy it more than most people would. The swinging animation, for example, is something special, not often seen in Spider-Man games, like the effect of Spider-Man kicking water while swinging sometimes, swinging on the floor, walking on the floor, swinging from one building and moving his legs, running up the opposite wall. There's a certain level of refinement that makes it a unique specimen that's worth returning to, at least to some of us. Since Treyarch, who developed tie-in games for both movies prior to this one, and developed Ultimate Spider-Man for the 6th generations of console, and decided to move on with this one to the 7th generations of console with the PS3 and the 360, in this transitional era between the generations of system, it was natural for the publisher to finance another tie-in game for the 6th generations of consoles, enter Vicarious Visions, and their new game. Most of their other Spider-Man games are portable. This was the second Spider-Man game for them to develop for consoles. The first one is Spider-Man 2 Inter-Electro. Some people find this one a better game, some others find it worse. Well, I think it's somewhere in the middle, both inferior but has some better spots. Sometimes I get the feeling that developers weren't given a proper amount of resources and time to develop this game. I mean, the city is limited, not the scope, the life in it, the look of the city, the designs of buildings. A lot of things about it feel like it was put together real quick for quick cash grab. There are still things they did better than their sister developer Treyarch for the 7th generations of consoles, because the camera is certainly more consistent, it's steadier, frame rate is more consistent, and street missions are obviously, there is a greater variety of them. All you have in the PS3 version and the PC version, which I play, is you either beat people or stop cars. There isn't much variety to the street missions. There are some missions which pop up randomly, but these aren't regular street missions like up in muggers or something like that. The PSP version have a wider variety of saving people, of taking people to hospitals, of saving people from burnt cars, of saving people from things like electric barriers and laughing gas for some reason. And you save fruit pies, you save and deliver fruit pies. Oh, there are two varieties of street missions. Either you talk to someone like Street Smart, someone or which Spider-Man doesn't trust, or you talk to a cop about these missions. And there's a succession of missions. Or there are the pop-ups that you get for radio calls like you see in the movie, when Peter is listening to his apartment listening for police radio to find the Sandman after knowing he killed his uncle. But like the PS3, this thing isn't available here. You can do regular missions, the normal variety of street missions you see when you talk to people on the street, or you can do a few more things like perform stunts for tourists and deliver light reporters to certain spots. So there's great potential to these missions than what we're given. These are part of the reason this game feels like it had little money and little time to develop it. Another thing it did better than the PS3 game, is that when you look at cinematics, character models look cleaner, they look better modeled, they look better made, their animation is certainly better, more elegant, and less like this. But there's also the transfer of PS3 cutscenes to the PS2 game, and it looks funny. Some of them look awkward. The transition doesn't look seamless.
Dr. Connors, wait!
One of the major differences between both games is the black suit, the symbiote. In the PS2 version, it takes a lot of screen time. It takes a big portion of the game. For the PS3, Xbox 360 and PC, Treyarch's game, you only get it as the late stage of the game. On the plus side, you get to play a New Game Plus, minus the tutorial mission, till the end, all the game with this black suit, so that's a nice addition with all the upgrades you bought, with all the upgrades you obtained from the first playthrough. Another difference on the PSP and PS2, and obviously the Wii, there is no fall damage, so when symbiote Spider-Man falls, You see cracks on the floor under him in this version. In Vicarious Visions console game, but there are no cracks under him when he's wearing the red suit. In the Treyarch edition there is full damage, so there is no difference in the effects between both suits. That one game has fewer stages with the symbiote and another game has more focus on it. I remember seeing a developer diary video about this. They said they were only notified about the symbiote, the black suit existence in the movie late in the game. I watched it on YouTube, but I can't find it here either. It enforces the thought that this game was developed late. They were given shorter amount of time. Much shorter amount of time for Vicarious Visions. But again, they did a nice job considering the time constraint. For some reason, they recreated the city, and building distribution and design look very different from previous games and even from the 360 game, and it doesn't look as fine. There are no billboards, there are no tradings, there's not much to it, no newsstands, and you can't enter subways, so there are those limitations and some unnecessary changes. Okay, back to the symbiote. A fun trivia about the PS3 version. If you leave Spider-Man standing for a few minutes, maybe 2, without moving him, you see him holding his head and screaming in pain. So there might have been more intention, more things intended to do with the PS3 version. But there were some limitations, there were some mishaps that denied more detailing for the game. Another difference is Spider-Man's suit, the black suit, gets upgraded in the 360. But for the 360, PS3 and PC, you don't unlock the upgrades if you unlock them after you finish the game. You don't get them for the black suit. So say you fully upgrade your health and reflexes for the red suit after you defeat Venom. You don't get these upgrades transferred to the New Game Plus, to the black suit mode, because the mode is already unlocked, so all upgrades are already available. Unlike Batman Arkham City and Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight, where upgrades transfer to, in one mode, transfer to all modes. For the red suit on the Vicarious Visions game, you see an upgrade sphere similar to that of Final Fantasy X, but it's obviously less detailed. There are upgrades that unlock other upgrades that unlock other upgrades, and you hear funny commentary from Bruce Campbell when you upgrade. But when you're wearing the black suit, you can't buy upgrades because they think something. They tell you the symbiote is more powerful, so it doesn't need upgrades. But when I think about power, when I gauge power difference between both suits, between the black suit in both the Treyarch game and the Vicarious Visions game, differences to note is that the regular suit and the black suit, they aren't very different. They aren't much different in the 360 version in what Treyarch did. There are limited differences, only a few moves unique to the black suit, but they are powerful. And the QB Chakra mode, which is called the Rage mode, but it looks like the QB Chakra effect from Naruto. Look at it, it's very similar. One of the moves he does is the Annihilator. It feels like an Iron Fist move. It's a good crowd control move. While in normal playthrough, while without using these moves and the Rage mode, the suit does feel similar. I don't see much of a problem in it, because the power Venom has was first included in the 1994 cartoon.
You can't do this! I just rewrote the rules. Now
Before that, the symbiote was just something that gave Peter organic webbings and more comfortable clothing. These are the only benefits. But it left him more tired, more exhausted. He journeyed in his sleep that left him exhausted because the symbiote feeds on adrenaline. There wasn't really any difference between strength and ability other than that. So on that regard, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad adaptation. They say the symbiote is more powerful than the red suit in the PSP game, so it feels more worth it. But honestly, in my experience, at least with the PSP, maybe it's because of the emulation. I'm not sure. The symbiote feels lesser than the regular suit. Regular suit has upgrades, has more powerful attack, has special abilities, has special superpowered attacks, so it makes it more worth it to stay in the red suit. Especially the more you progress, when it gets harder to remove the black suit. You have to press triangle repeatedly. And in this game you fight triangle to activate this quick time event, so it makes it not worth the hassle. One of the reasons the rapid pressing on the triangle is not worth it in the PSP version, PS2 version, is you have to fight and fight and fight and fight the controls until it happens. I often try to remove the black suit, but it stays that way. It causes me to fail the mission. That's not fair. I don't like it. One of the reasons the triangle is annoying is compare it to the Test Your Might in Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. Yes, these things are like Test Your Might segments that were introduced in Mortal Kombat 1. So you can blame that game for this kind of press button repeatedly. In Shaolin Monks, you get the press X rapidly to fill the Test Your Might meter. Fighting it is not enough, you can press another button while pressing X repeatedly, and it boosts up the speed of the filling the meter, and you can break stuff. This game doesn't have this luxury, and you have the triangle mashing thing in a boss fight, and it's uncomfortable, it's annoying, it's cause for failure, and I don't like it, I really don't like it. Compared to the Test Your Might sequence from Treyarch's games, Spider-Man 3, their Spider-Man 3 and Ultimate Spider-Man, it doesn't take much effort to perform. Pick, press quickly and it's done. Sometimes you press more often, but you don't have to fight. You press rapidly and very hard in a manner that hurts your finger until you activate the function or get hit like by the lizard or something. Compare that to the PSP version, to the PS3 version of the Mega Lizard fight. You throw the lizard on generators and button mash until he's defeated for 2 minutes. And again, this boss fight in the PS3 version from Treyarch is the only one that is unceremoniously button masher. Case in point, the black suit is not worth it. It's an annoying feature in the PSP version, so I prefer to avoid it.
Stay away from me!
Spider-Man's mobility in this game is pretty interesting. There's a level of fluidness to it that's unrepeated in other games. The way he bounces off walls and runs on them. It's not smooth and it's not perfect. Sometimes it's annoying, especially the wall run. But it's not overall bad. There's a level of joy in it. Swinging is fast and fluid. It's a great deal of fun. The blur effect when you speed is removed from the PSP version. But sometimes mid-swinging the swing arcs downwards too fast and too low, and then swings up real high and real fast. It makes the swinging experience a bit troubling, especially when you swing in places like Central Park or anywhere else where there are low trees, or swing parallel or under a bridge. A certain mission requires swinging by the bridge. Your best option is to swing on the bridge leading to Roosevelt Island, because this way you won't drown. There is no swinging like in the PS3 version and Web of Shadows and the PS4 game, so it makes traveling a troubling experience. Speaking of missions, in Spider-Man 2 and Ultimate Spider-Man there is a prerequisite before continuing the story. You have to perform certain tasks, certain number of tasks of this kind and that kind, or collect points in order to be able to progress the story. Treyarch discarded this bit with their PS3 game of Spider-Man 3. Vicarious Visions maintained this habit, but minimalized it. They positioned it in some strange places. Like in the mission of capturing the lizard. You fight the lizard, then you go out the sewers to fight dragon tail gangs, to find information, and then go back to the sewers. And when you go to fight dragon tail gangs, you sometimes go far from the sewer location where you need to enter to find the mission. And then after you're done, after the game decides you're done, you can go back and fight some lizards and dragon tail members outside by the manhole. Then you proceed with the mission. This is one of the most awkward, disjointed decisions made for missions in any games I played anyway. And for Shriek, there's a mission when you need to find her. To go to her lair to find it, you need to fight Waste Tribe gang members. The missions in both cases are weird and unrelated to the story mission. You're supposed to fight in more information of location of the villain you fight, but when you fight the gangs you have You have to stop bombs from exploding. You have to save civilians that are beat up. You have to save psychics that are kidnapped. You have to save something and nothing to do with the mission. These limitations probably have to do with the time constraint and budget constraint Vicarious Visions experienced while making this game. So it had potential, the idea had potential, if placed correctly. But the way it is, it's weird and disjointed and makes no sense. Makes no difference whether you do it or not. You just know the game compels you to do it if you want to progress with the story. Another thing about missions, after you beat the Mega Lizard and cure Dr. Connors, you need to cure his targets. You need to cure the victims of the lizard who turned to lizard people. In the Treyarch edition, you dispense medicine to them and cure them. They return to human form. But in this one, you just beat them and leave them on the street. When it comes to story, the Treyarch edition, what they offered is written on the back of the box as choose one of 10 storylines. When you play the game itself, there is a level of flexibility in choosing missions, but you don't feel choosing one of 10 storylines as the back of the box suggests. What Vicarious Visions did with their PS2 game, it offers 5 storylines you choose from on the back of the box. But when you play the game, the story is very linearly told, with only twice a branching choice comes, and you have to choose one of 2 missions you can go to. One of them Spider-Man talks about and says it's his immediate attention. The other one is sideways, but you have to play it eventually, before a certain point in the game. This is weird, it's just awkward, and I wish they didn't make such a promise. The overall experience is not a bad one, it's pretty enjoyable. I find it entertaining, but it's not something I'd highly recommend. You can play it, it's worth playing if you like Spider-Man games, if you like Spider-Man at least once. If you want to retry it, you can retry it, it's worth retrying, but it's not something I cherish personally. But I wouldn't recommend it as a great game or worth playing as a treasured piece of gaming. I think it deserves a 6 out of 10. Not bad, not great, something in the middle.
Now, what does a piece like that need?
Great.